Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joseph. I'm a Jewish witch. That's what's up. Today I wanted to talk about shadow work. I am by no means an expert on shadow work within the context of the witchy community, but boy am I an expert on doing my own shadow work. In this video I'm going to talk about the history of shadow work and ways in which I recommend proceeding with shadow work. Let's just jump right in. Shadow work is all about unpacking the darker parts of yourself that are hidden or that you don't like as much, learning about them, understanding why they exist, and figuring out how to incorporate them into your general being in a healthy way, or to work through them if they are not destined to be a part of you forever. And sometimes both, because you want to learn how to incorporate something healthily until you figure out how to get rid of it completely. The concept of shadow work centers around the idea of a shadow self, who is someone basically comprised of all the parts of yourself that you don't like or that you wish weren't there. So an example is like someone's shadow self could be where they see all of their fear. Like anytime they're afraid, they feel bad about it, they don't like that it happens, and they relegate this fear to a part of themselves that they view as not what they're aspiring to be like. Like if they could leave this fear behind, they would. And in that case, you would want to learn how to incorporate it healthily into your life, because there's no getting rid of fear. The concept of the shadow self was first made by Carl Jung, an early pioneer in the field of psychiatry. The concept of shadow work is one that shows up a lot in witchcraft communities, but it also shows up in psychiatry communities because of Carl Jung. And shadow work looks like a lot of different things because it's included in so many different contexts. So now that we've talked a bit about the history of shadow work and where it comes from, how it's used, a little bit of an overview. Why is it important? Shadow work is important because it teaches you how to value yourself as a complete and complex being. It helps you show compassion to yourself, and it allows you to be able to embrace your flaws or the parts of you that you don't like. In the case of fear, fear is not a flaw, but the parts of you that you might not like, in a healthy, compassionate way, to understand that these are indeed parts of you and to work through incorporating them into your life, into the version of you that you see yourself as. How do I recommend going about shadow work? Number one, therapy. I am of the opinion that everybody should go to therapy regardless, but especially if you have a lot of baggage, if you've gone through some weird experiences, if you are in a position where you think you need mental health help, then please get mental health help. Even if you're not, it can't hurt to reach out to a therapist and be like, I just wanted to see how I'm doing. I think there are things that I cannot teach you that a therapist can. There are things you can kind of try and teach yourself, but doing it through therapy will ensure that you don't wind up teaching yourself thought patterns that are unhealthy or doing shadow work in an unhealthy way. First recommendation, therapy. My second recommendation is doing shadow work through journaling. Journaling is a safe space. It is a small, intimate space. It's just you and either the paper or your electronic device if you journal on an electronic device. Personally, I like handwriting stuff. Nobody else has to see it. Nobody else has to worry about it. That's what's nice about journaling versus therapy, is there's nobody else. And even though a therapist won't judge you, it can be intimidating. So maybe journaling is a little easier to access. And there's also all sorts of things with therapy about like affordability and access to therapy and finding a therapist who is good and who meets your needs. So journaling can be a good place to start. And for some people, it might be enough or all it can do. In your journaling, it's important to interrogate yourself honestly. It's important to be able to write down the things you don't like about yourself. But it's also an opportunity to explore where these things came from. How have these things actually helped you in the past? How are they hindering your life now? Where would you like to go with it? Is this something you'd like to figure out how to have a healthier relationship with? Or is this something you would like to figure out how to get rid of? Like we talked about earlier, fear in general is something you're going to have to learn to live with. But fear about a specific thing, maybe it's something you can work towards overcoming. Journaling is also nice because you are the one setting the timetable, whereas in therapy, the therapist gets some amount of input into what you're discussing, just because they have the training and they have the knowledge of where you need to go that you might not. There are plenty of prompts on the internet for how to do shadow work journaling. I just wanted to highlight that it is a valuable option. A third option is through forms of divination. My go-to divination tool is my tarot deck, especially if you just use the major arcana as opposed opposed to the minor arcana, you can get some really strong indicators. Pull a tarot card, figure out how it resonates with you, what it says about you. Ask your deck questions like, what is my biggest flaw? What am I most afraid of? What do I need to improve on? Questions like those are great starting places, and then your deck can help you answer them. It's also important to acknowledge that sometimes divination tools can be wrong. So if you, I don't know, if you get the Sun card on what is my biggest flaw, that might not be accurate because the Sun card is all about being happy. It's a very bad summary of the Sun card, but like it's a very positive card. So keep that in mind, that cards can be wrong. It's also important to keep in mind from earlier that therapists can be wrong. Therapists can be unqualified. Therapists can be bad. So it's important to do your research on a therapist. It's important to be honest with yourself in journaling, and it's important to interrogate the answers you get from divination tools a little bit, just to make sure they're not way off base. So those are 3 ways that I recommend doing shadow work. There are a billion more. I just wanted to encourage my subscribers that shadow work is something everybody can do. I wanted to present it in an accessible way and make it sound not quite so intimidating. Sure, it's shadow work. It's serious. It's hard. It's difficult. If you're doing it well, it's gonna be tiring and sometimes painful, but it's not something to be afraid of. I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. If you want to see more content from me, the Jewish Witch, about Judaism and or witchcraft, feel free to subscribe. I also have a link tree with links to my Instagram, YouTube channel, which you're here, and Patreon in the description if you would like to check out either my Instagram or Patreon. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a good day.